Welcome to the People's Basics, and here on the People's Platform, we are talking to another guest today in Kaila Lewis, and we want to invite all of you, the members of our community, to come on to our program to have a conversation about the issues that matter most to you. But without any further ado, let's bring on Kaila. Kaila, welcome to the People's Platform.
Hi, John. It's great speaking with you today.
And it's great to be able to talk with you as well. So, Kaila, for the folks that are listening to our podcast today, you introduce yourself a little bit more to them, where you're from, what you do, and how you politically identify.
Sure. So my name is Kaila Lewis. I am currently from Boston, Massachusetts, born and raised. I identify as myself as an independent, and I'm 26 years old. I am a millennial, and I pretty much, right now, I don't really work because of COVID. I'm collecting unemployment, trying to look for jobs currently. So right now, it's been one hell of a whirlwind trying to navigate exactly how I should go about society right now because of the issues that are currently happening.
So, Carol, let me ask you, independence can mean a lot of things to people. It's kind of evenly split. Some identify conservatively as independent, some more liberally, and some try to have a bit more of a heterodox view, combining some elements of both and none of the above, even. Could you tell me a little bit more about what you prioritize and why you identify as an independent versus aligning with any other particular ideology or party?
Sure. So, I became an independent about 2 years ago. It was a really tough decision for me to make because growing up, I grew up in a pretty much corporate democratic family. Like my family watches a lot of CNN, MSNBC, things like that, and that's where they get their news. They never really sought out answers if they had questions. For me, growing up, I came to the conclusion of being an independent because the two-party system just wasn't working for me personally. There were a lot of things growing up that, coming into adulthood that were becoming real issues for me that both parties just weren't touching on. And that really just drove me into the point of, you know what, if nobody is going to care about the issues that are impacting my life and a lot of people that I know and a lot of my peers, then I'm just going to go about as an independent and try to see if I can make change in that way because this two-party system just isn't working. It's failing us, and we need something different.
So can you elaborate a little bit more upon what do you think both parties are failing us on? What issues do you think both parties are not addressing that you are prioritizing?
Sure. I think both parties, they're doing a terrible job of meeting our needs collectively as a people for America. There are a lot of issues that all of us are facing that a lot of us all generally find in common. You know what I mean? Like when you go to somebody and you say, hey, are you happy with the outcome of your job? Are you happy with the outcome of your social life? A lot of people are saying no, and they want changes. They want real changes. They want positive change. They don't want any person telling them, hey, this thing is infringing on your rights and try to fearmonger you. That doesn't work. It's not working. It's only working for certain powers that be. It's not working for regular people like you and me. And that's the problem. And that's what we really collectively need to start understanding is that it's not an issue to be an independent. There's nothing wrong with that. The problem is when other people are telling you, hey, you have to be this or that. Well, why can't I have my own general opinion? I'm an American too, right? So that's where my whole becoming an independent came into play.
So I think that makes a lot of sense in a philosophical connotation. I think the independent mindset is something that we strongly embrace here. It's looking for what the right solutions are rather than what the specific ideology dictates or what a party dictates. But I'm actually curious how that kind of comes to be applied when our existing system is more often than not more of a binary. How do you approach it on kind of an electoral basis? Like, are you kind of willing to vote between both parties? Do you never vote between either of the parties and you just vote for third parties? How do you generally go about assessing kind of the electoral process?
That's a great question. So for me, what I do is I go based off of what can that person running for office or running for a legislative seat or whatever they're running for, what can they do for me, right? What are the things that they're honing in on that will impact my life in a positive way? And if a person is not speaking about any of those issues at all that matter to me and my community, then that to me is not a good choice. So I go based off that. It's not, for me, it's not based off of what party or political, party they choose to be. Who are you as a person, right? And not even personality wise. I don't really even care about that either. What I really care about is what are your morals, right? Where is your head? What are you thinking about when you're thinking about policies? Are you thinking about the people? Or are you thinking about your pockets? And that's the biggest thing that I look for. And a lot of politicians these days, they're only looking for the best interests of their pockets. And there's only a select few politicians in there that really care about the people. I mean, we saw that with Cori Bush and what she did to help with people and with the eviction moratorium. I'm sorry. But she did a lot of good work. There's politicians in there that are trying, but we need more. We need to push for more, and that's what people should look for in politics, in politicians. They need to look for somebody who matches your morals, who matches what you and your community need, not what these big banks need for their pockets or what politician needs what for their campaign donors and all that stuff. That that needs to stop. We need to start caring about each other, people, right? We need to get down to the basics, and that to me is really what drives my vote.
Mm. I think I can echo a lot of those sentiments that it should be, at the end of the day, people who are trying to help people and that are proposing the right solutions rather than a party line. But I think in an increasingly polarized America, we are seeing more people unable to necessarily forge common consensus and work between both parties, as they see either one of the two parties often as an existential threat. And you even have some of these representatives, like Cori Bush, as you alluded to, who still, even if they maybe have some independent streaks to support it, they generally caucus kind of with the Democratic Party. And so I'm kind of curious, like, how we can kind of build up the support for the like-minded people. Do you think we need to go between both platforms, work mainly within one, the third party? Is it an all of the above approach? How do you think we advance these people? Because it definitely seems like a lot of these people-oriented policies are coming from, frankly, more often, a lot of the times, the left-leaning side of the Democratic Party, as the eviction moratorium was brought up and some of these relief packages came from their advocacy. How do you think we interact with a system that, because of the way we vote, we are often forced into choosing between a binary? Do you think it is just the rejection of the duopoly and never voting for those, or just strategically always voting for whoever the best candidate in an election is, or something else?
That's a great question, John, because this is something that I've been pondering between like myself is what's the best direction to go in. And to be honest, I think the best direction we need to go in is we need to stop with the discourse. Yes, we can all have different opinions on how things are done, but ultimately, the squad, they are doing the best that they can, and they're the best chance that we've got. So it is okay to critique, right? It is okay for criticism. That's fine. That's fine. We all need that. But what you can't go out there and do is try to say, oh, Cori Bush is this, and that. Because no. I know for a fact because I've been homeless. right? I've been in a situation where I was living out on the streets, okay? Cori Bush is a politician for me because she understands what it's like to be homeless. If you don't understand what it's like to be homeless, then you can't really speak on people like me who have actually been through it. And Cori Bush is only doing this to get likes and to get clout. No, 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 no. That's not what's happening. And if you really think that's what's happening, then I'm sorry, sweetheart, but you don't know what real life is like. And a lot of these lefty people on social media that try to do the discourse, I'm sorry, but they don't know what real life is like. They don't know what it's like to live day by day, not knowing if you're going to get a check next week. They don't know what it's like to not have a place over your head, to not have something to eat at night, to not know when you're going to see your parents again. Okay?
Yeah.
So those people online doing the discourse, and they are not important. We need to ignore those people. Let them run their mouths if they want to, blah, 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 blah. Okay. But the real people like us who want change for the better, we need to let those people talk their little talk and we keep doing the work. Let's
Mm.
do the work. Let those kids talk online and let's get to the work. Whoever wants to help, whoever is ready, let's get it. And I feel like once we get more collective people who are ready to get out on the streets, it's on and popping. It's on and popping.
Yeah. It sounds very much like you're essentially advocating us to just engage in more constructive rather than destructive discourse. And especially with platforms like social media for Twitter, Facebook, etc., the language has certainly been heightened, and a lot of focus has been on some of these progressives in Congress to kind of shoulder the entire load from like 6 members to be able to enact law. Why do you think this dynamic has emerged where there's been this almost hyper focusing from the left on members of the Justice Democrats?
Absolutely. And I've totally seen that. And honestly, it kind of bothers me, right? Because, like I said, there's nothing wrong with criticism. There's nothing wrong with critiquing on somebody's job and how they're doing. That's normal, right? But what you can't go out there and do is try to say that AOC and Cori Bush and Ayanna Pressley and Ilhan Omar and Jamal Bowman and all of them are all working for their own interests. That's not true. That's just not true. And you cannot be a real lefty if you personally believe that AOC and all of them are working against your best interests. That's just not true. That's not. What they're trying to do is bigger than us. Okay? It's bigger than us. They're trying. And it may not seem like it because we're on the outside and we don't know exactly what blah, blah, blah. But I promise you they're trying. Because I actually keep tabs on these people. I follow them on Twitter, on Instagram, everything, everything, everything. I know that they are the people who are actually caring about us. So instead of us talking down on them, let's help them. Let's help them. Whatever they need, let's be those people. Hey, you need this and that. You need help organizing, boom, boom, boom. Let's help. Let's do that. Let's stop the whole BS pretending that we're holier than man because we're not, right? Yes, everything that we are speaking on is true, but that does not mean that we are the bestest in the whole world. Cut it out. We're all people. We're all trying to figure this out, right? So, what we need to do is stop the little chit chat online and go do something. If you see a candidate that actually speaks to you, you donate to their campaigns. You volunteer for their phone callings, right? You do things like that and actually help. That will actually get us somewhere. And I know because I've done it. I've done it. And I've seen the results. So we got to just stick on that path and over time I do have hope. I really do.
I can echo your hope. And I think one of the dynamics that we discount a bit when it comes to why the left is divided is largely it's somewhat inherent to the ideology of the notion of progress. The notion of progress is simply in dissatisfaction with the status quo. It is this mindset of being critical and trying to improve upon stuff. But sometimes I feel like it is misaligned and misdirected towards these individuals because fundamentally there have been certain narratives that independent media within left spaces have pushed that I think are harmful and unnuanced. Comparison to groups like the Tea Party as a course of action for the squad to take, I think are quite erroneous. This has been something that has been pushed by pundits I once respected, like Kyle Kalinske. There has been many a pundit who have said that we have to be taking on this role of being antagonistic to the party and purely obstructionist in order to get our way, when the differences in goals lend to differences in tactics. The Tea Party was a group trying to reduce government, make it less efficient, and not work. Their goal inherently was obstruction, to make government less efficient and spend less. They were also financed by many billionaires. The leftist movement does not have a ton of good funding in it. It is often for people who are advocating for anti-poverty programs. And as well, the size of the Tea Party caucus dwindled the Justice Democrats by roughly a ratio of at least 6-1. And so this notion that we can wield and do the same tactics as the Tea Party now are very erroneous. And this has been pushed for a long time in independent media spaces. And some believe it as a legitimate tactic. But I also believe there's also an incentive in these spaces to basically hyper-moralize advocacy, to simply basically assert that you are better than someone else, that someone is not as left as thou. And I can understand critique, but a lot of times it does feel like that people are tearing others down simply so that they can seem better in comparison. Where if they were simply pressured and put into office and faced with these tough decisions, they too would have many a fault that we would come to see exposed. I think genuinely there is some destructive discourse being propagated by large independent media voices that assert that we should essentially copy a lot of the tactics on the right that Donald Trump and the Tea Party embraced to overtake their party, when fundamentally the Democratic Party is a very different voter base and institutions than the Republican Party was. So I genuinely feel like part of the problem is media, and it is us pushing these notions of entertainment, which more often than not gets clicks when it's divisive and creating outrage. And so I'm curious, in your opinion, we can promote this more constructive oriented advocacy. How do you think we can kind of spread this message more effectively?
That's a great question, John. And I've thought a lot about this too. And personally, I think we have to go big. I think we need to actually do like a whole, like a real. So back in the day, right? I'm a Black American. I'm a Black woman American, right? Back in the day, a lot of the time, Black Americans didn't get help from the government, right? They had to fend for themselves. During the 70s, the Black Panthers, what did they do? They decided, hey, the government ain't going to help us. They're killing us. So we're going to create food drives, and we're going to create backpack drives and all these different things to help the community and lift them up, right? They made all these bookstores and all these amazing things that help Black Americans become better. We need to do that on the left. We need to actually get real action in there. We need to be having food drives, book drives, fundraisers, all that stuff every day. We need to get more people on our side. We need to expose more people to our ideas because they're not wrong. We're on the right side. We are on the right side. We don't need to hide our ideas, right? So why don't we go out there and do these things? Well, because a lot of people on the left tell us, like you said, oh, we have to be like the right and blah, blah, blah. No, we don't. We don't have to be them. Why do we have to be conservative people? Why do we have to be the right? We are the left. So let's do things different. Let's do things that put people in power. Let's do things that, for example, people like me, a lot of us would love to run for office. A lot of us would love to actually have an opportunity to bring real positive change to our communities, right? But we can't because we can't afford it. We cannot afford to go out there and do all these campaigns and all these things. So if we could uplift people like me, right? And sponsor them and all those things, we could see so much more from the left, right? Because right now we only have a few select people on our side. We need to get more people on our side and we need to expose more people to our ideas. Because, like I said, our ideas are not wrong. We're on the right side. We just gotta we just got to talk to people like they're humans. You know what I mean? A lot of times when I
Yeah,
go on social media, I see a lot of people on the left, they're just talking to each other or talking to other people like they're less than. And that's not right.
yeah.
You don't communicate to people like that. That's not how you get your ideas across. So
I, I
that's
whole
wrong with
I
it.
wholeheartedly agree with you. I think very often they discount how politics actually works. A lot of us on the left really love policy, and I'm never going to bash someone for caring about policy. I'm a big policy wonk myself. But when you look at most people, how do they vote? How do they get their information? Very, very rarely do people actually go to candidates' websites and actually look at a policy platform. It's
Right.
something, this data may have changed from when I was researching my own, looking up of running for office back in 2019. But roughly it was 5% there, where people would actually go to the policy platform and look. Most often, what it actually was, is it's relationship networking and a general message towards advertising. And essentially, because we vote for people, we build up these very personal narratives around the individual. And so I have to think to myself, just in an interpersonal relationship, are you more willing to work with the person who is respecting you and is listening to your ideas and addressing your concerns? Or are you more willing to work with the person who calls you an immoral idiot? I think I'm more willing to work with the former. And to your point before about we don't have to advocate like the right, I think that is wholeheartedly true. And it reminds me very much of this hyper moralistic, kind of sensitive culture that was developed on the evangelical right, largely during the Reagan era, that has now been transferred to the left in its own moralistic vision, where if you're not with us, you're automatically evil or an idiot. And sometimes it just simply takes time to have people be properly exposed or have certain issues face them. And I think we should kind of leave ourselves the opportunity that they can take hold of an olive branch at some point. And I think my favorite part of what you said was, well, what is that alternative method? We want to promote constructive politics and constructive discourse, then our organizing should be constructive in helping people. And it makes me think very much so of the organizing efforts of Stacey Abrams in Georgia, where they simply prioritize voter registration and consistently being in those communities of organizing. I think the left very much can capture that same idea and provide more than just the registration to vote, but tangible help, which will lead us to having more trust from the community that we are there to help, that you know us. I feel very often, and this is something I learned myself and I took a step back, but often people jump towards running for Congress. They federalize all the issues. They think we only can make our progress through Congress and through the presidency. The local politics matters. It's required for properly building up the network that you need to even come close to running for a federal office. We fail so often and spend so much of our resources on these federal races when it does feel like we're often taking the shortcut. And we would be better off served spending that money instead of on national campaigns, helping someone get their foot in the door into local politics and in just simply helping their community and organize. But I genuinely believe you're right. We need to be spending more of our time organizing mutual aid efforts into communities, and to some people's disagreement, there are definitely the people who prioritize direct action and mutual aid, but then they reject electoralism. I think you need to do both. While you're providing mutual aid and helping people, register those people to vote and have those people then on your side. We should be doing both. And so let me just ask you, Kaila, as we're approaching the end of our time, do you have any final thoughts on generally what we need to be doing kind of nationally to spread that message of embracing locality and direct?
That's a great question. I think that collectively, we all need to stop thinking we are better than everyone else. It's not true. We are not better. We're not. But what we are is we're right. We're right. That doesn't mean that we're better. That just means that we are correct with what is actually happening. And that's okay to be right, but you don't have to be smug about it, right? You don't have to be, an asshole about it. Excuse my language. But a lot of people on the left are like that. Stop. Stop. Talk to people, right? Like they're human beings. And if they try to, interrupt you, or let them interrupt you and continue their rambling, and then okay, I'm going to get my thoughts together, right? And then talk to them. Just talk. And even if you can't change their mind, that's okay. We don't have to change every single person's mind. It's not going to happen. It's not. But what we can do, the people who actually, oh wow, I didn't think about it that way, and oh wow, I want to hear more about that way. Those are the people we need to go after now. We need to go after those people who are, you put in a little word or two words and they're like, oh wow, I didn't think about that before. Let me actually. Those are the people.
Yeah,
we need to go after those.
We need to be building bridges instead of burning them. I think very often we on the left often seek out the heretics rather than seeking out the potential converts. I think this is a mindset that the right embraces a lot, is that it's not trying to just out or like purify test the right. It's like, okay, we want as many people willing to embrace the label as possible. Some people love to gatekeep the idea of being on the left, and I think that's just so dumb. I think you want as many people willing to embrace the labeling. You may disagree and have differences of opinion of what it means, and yes, we should not be welcoming into these spaces people who are abusive. But we shouldn't be trying to make people not eligible, because that's just pushing them away. And we need to be practicing more of the politics of attraction and the politics of repulsion.
Taylor, I totally agree.
So let me ask you, do you have any final thoughts or any questions that you wanted to ask me as we're wrapping up today's program? Anything to share with the People's Basics audience?
Yeah, so I just wanted to share a little bit of positivity for everyone out there, because I know I've been feeling really down, especially the way things are going in this world, and you feel like, oh, this impending doom is about to happen. Do not give up. We cannot give up. We got to keep on pushing, and we got to keep on fighting. And we have to really think about I really want every one of you listening to come up with one way that you can make a positive difference for the left. What is one little thing you can do to push us in the momentum where we need to be? And it could be literally anything. Anything. Just find something and do it. Instead of insulting one another, instead of putting each other down. We've got to stop. We're so much better than that, people. We're so much better than that. And I know we are, because we've had a lot of amazing leaders in the past 5, 6, 100 generations from the left, okay? We've had amazing, real, genuine, caring, empathetic leaders. And we can find them again, guys. We just gotta stop the unnecessary discourse. We gotta cut it out. Let's be open-minded, and let's be more inclusive. And those are my final thoughts.
Well, I love to hear that, Kayla. That's the exact form of politics we want to preach here, is being constructive, being practical, being positive, and actually trying to build the coalition rather than trying to keep people out of it. So I'm glad you got to come here and share a little bit of that optimism and hope and positivity today, because more people definitely need it in these times. So thank you for that.
Thank you for having me, John. I was really happy to be on the show today. Thank you for the opportunity.
You're quite welcome. Okay, so that's going to do it for our episode today. Again, I give my thanks to Kayla for being a lovely guest. And I want to remind you all, if you enjoyed today's content, please make sure that you are subscribed to the network, as well as check the description section down below to find all links to our network, as well as be able to connect with our guest today if you want to hear more from her. So, that being said, my universal people, this has been another episode of the People's Platform. Please come sign up and join yourself so that you can participate in these episodes. And until next time, my universal people, I'll be stay classy out there.